Welcome aboard the dark waters of the Night Crew podcast, where true crime meets the unknown. Each month we dive into the eerie, the unsolved, and the stories that haunt the shadows. If it's creepy, mysterious, or just plain unsettling, you'll find it here. So light your lantern, step onto the deck, and prepare to uncover what lies beneath the surface.
This podcast contains discussions of true crime, disturbing content, and mature themes that may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is strongly advised. The Night Crew podcast aims to present stories with respect to the victims and their families, and the intent is never to sensationalize tragedy, but to shed light on the unknown and unexplained. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 19 of The Night Crew. This is where the weird gets real, where true crime meets the unexplained, and every mystery leaves a line on for you, just in case. So today we will be talking about the Cecil Hotel, where the living check in and the dead never leave. So this is probably going to be a longer episode because I'm going to be talking about the Elisa Lam case, and I'm also going to be talking about serial killers that have stayed at this hotel, paranormal activity, and other things as well, because I didn't just want to cover the true crime case. I wanted to figure out what was going on in this hotel and why it is the way it is today. There are buildings that stand because they were built, and then there are buildings that rise because something darker wants walls to hide behind. Today we walk into one of those places, a place that breathes despair and exhales secrets. A place where death isn't an intruder, it's a resident. Welcome to the Cecil Hotel. Downtown Los Angeles, Skid Row. Tens of thousands of lost souls roaming the streets. Addicts, the abandoned, the forgotten, and the mentally fractured. A human graveyard that never got buried. And right in the center of it all sits a building like a cracked tooth in the mouth of the city, rotting, diseased, and impossible to ignore. The Cecil is not merely a hotel. It's a collection point, a psychic drain, a gravitational pull for tragedy. Some places feel haunted. The Cecil feels hungry. Maybe you've seen the viral elevator footage. Maybe you know about the bodies, the suicides, the serial killers, the whispers about demons, curses, and spirits trapped in walls. But the truth goes deeper. This isn't just a crime story. It's not just a haunting. It's a landmark of human suffering and something else. Something that grows from pain and refuses to die. So, before we step inside, I want you to breathe with me. Slow, steady. Because once you cross this threshold, reality blurs. And if you are not grounded, places like this can follow you home. Tonight, I'm not just telling a story. We are entering an ecosystem of darkness, brick, blood, shadow, and silence. And the question isn't why so many horrors happen here. The question is, why did they feel so at home? Because every nightmare needs a cradle. And every cradle rocks something in it. At the Cecil, you don't just check in, you surrender. A hotel of lost souls. If walls could speak, the Cecil wouldn't whisper, it would scream. The moment the Great Depression hit, the glittering marble floors and golden chandeliers no longer felt like luxury. They felt like mockery, reminders of what thousands had just lost. And the people who drifted into the Cecil Hotel, they didn't come looking for luxury anymore. They came to disappear. The suicide era begins. By 1931, the hotel's guests weren't Hollywood dreamers. They were men in worn coats, women with haunted eyes, veterans, the jobless, the grieving, and the forgotten. They came in with silence in their steps, in resignation in their shoulders. Victims of life before death ever touched them. One by one, they checked in alone. They paid for a room. They carried small suitcases with barely anything inside, and some never checked out. It didn't take long before staff noticed the pattern. Guests requesting upper floors, do not disturb signs never removed, the quiet ones taking the corner rooms, or staring too long at the courtyard below. Soon, that grand lobby became a gateway, not a welcome. The front desk clerks learned to recognize the look, that hollow, glassy-eyed stare. A man clutching a pocket Bible like a life raft. A woman whispering a prayer under her breath as she accepted a room key. A bellhop once recalled later, they checked in like travelers, but they carried the weight of goodbye. This era will give birth to a morbid nickname whispered by many police and firefighters, the Suicide Hotel. And with every life taken, something else seemed to grow in the building. Lingering lost souls. Staff reported strange events as early as the 1930s. Shadows slipping across hallways even when nobody was booked on the floor. Sudden cold pockets in otherwise warm rooms. Soft crying heard in locked empty rooms. Phones ringing with no caller, no line connected. Whispers in rooms right after someone passed. One housekeeper refused to clean the 7th floor alone, telling coworkers, "You can feel something walking behind you. You don't hear it, but you feel it." A night manager claimed he often had to go upstairs to silence phones no one should be using. He once answered a ringing house phone on floor 9. Static. Then a faint voice, trembling, weak. I didn't want to. When he checked the corridor, every room was empty on that floor. No guests, no staff. Nothing but silence and the sound of the elevator settling. Energy that stays. Hotels are strange places spiritually. You have fleeting souls, emotions swirling, dreams and nightmares stacked on top of each other like sediment. But the Cecil Hotel wasn't just holding emotions, it was absorbing them. Many paranormal researchers believe locations of repeated suffering create echoes. Some call them residual hauntings, grief looping like a broken record. Others believe each life loss became a thin place, where the veil between worlds weakens, and the Cecil had dozens. From the 1930s to the 1950s, death became routine, with veterans battling inner demons, mothers overwhelmed by despair, or lovers whose hearts and minds broke beyond repair. Every tragedy left a mark. A psychic who visited in the 40s later wrote in her journal, "This place is a sponge of sorrow. Nothing leaves it, not even after death." An unseen hunger. By the late 50s, the hotel wasn't just sad, it felt predatory. Guests described nightmares unlike anything they had seen before. They would see figures standing at the foot of the bed. They would feel something sit beside them while they slept. They heard tapping on the window from the inside, or they awoke to whispers breathing into their ear, but no one else was there in the room with them. One former guest wrote in a police statement during an unrelated investigation, I woke up and saw a man standing in my room. He was staring out the window as if waiting for something. When I turned on the lamp, he vanished. Her room? Floor 10. Later infamous for far darker reasons. Elevators malfunction constantly, stopping on random floors in the middle of the night, doors sliding open to reveal empty halls, lights flickering, and silence thick enough to choke on. The guests felt watched, followed, and drained. Some claimed something in the building fed on fear, isolation, and despair. The Cecil was getting stronger, because soon despair would not be enough. The hotel would start drawing in people not just ready to die, but people ready to kill. Serial killers would walk these halls. Bodies would be found in water tanks. Elevator cameras would capture moments that still haunt the internet today. And the thing growing inside the Cecil Hotel, whatever you choose to call it, would only get darker, louder, and hungrier. And I will be going into the notable haunted / strange occurrences that occurred within the Cecil Hotel. The hotel has been described as among the most haunted hotels in the world due to the sheer number of bizarre deaths, suicides, murders, and disappearances over decades. Guests and visitors report a crushing pressure upon entering the lobby or hallways, one Reddit user wrote. That place just feels bad. The second I stepped into the lobby, I felt this really cold, crushing pressure all around. Housekeeping and staff have claimed to hear phantom voices, footsteps on empty floors, phones ringing when no one answers, and doors opening onto blank corridors. On ghost tour sites, there is a legend that the famed murder victim, Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia, was seen in the hotel bar days before her murder. The hotel's environment, closeness to Skid Row, high density of tragic events, is argued to create a haunted energy or residual trauma field. And for those who don't know what Skid Row is, it is just swamped with a lot of homelessness, drugs, and violence. It's one place you shouldn't go to. And then there's the crying woman phenomenon in the hotel. Multiple former residents have reported hearing a woman sobbing late at night, usually between 2 to 4 a.m. No footsteps, just quiet crying that seems to move from room to room. Guests say they sometimes heard it right outside their door, but no one was there when they looked. Some have tied this to the many women who jumped to their deaths from upper floors. Others say it's connected to one case where a woman leapt. She leapt and tragically landed on a pedestrian below. It sounds like grief that doesn't stop. Then you have the shadow figures in the hallways. Security guards from the early 2000s reportedly talked about dark, human-shaped shadows appearing on cameras and then disappearing when checked in person. Witnesses described a tall, thin figure standing near the elevator bank, a shadow that crawls along the hallway wall. Ugh. I hope to never see that. I go to a lot of haunted locations to do paranormal investigations. That's one thing I will leave if I see that on a damn hallway wall. And there's also one that appears at the end of long corridors and vanishes when approached. Shadow figure sightings intensified in years following Elisa Lam's death. Phone calls from empty rooms. Former staff members have claimed phones at the front desk would ring from rooms that were unoccupied, unrented, and in some cases sealed off. When answered, they'd all pretty much get the same thing: silence, static, and sometimes even faint breathing. Some rooms have supposedly been disconnected, yet still dial out. That's when you know this place is haunted. Whew. And you have phantom footsteps on upper floors. Numerous guests staying on higher floors describe heavy footsteps running down hallways at night, doors slamming, elevator dinging and arriving with nobody inside. One long-term resident swore he heard footsteps running on the ceiling, even though he was on the top floor. The elevator companion effect. Elevators at the Cecil are infamous after the Elisa Lam case, but paranormal investigators claim elevators open on empty floors, press buttons unselect themselves on the elevator, people feel someone stand behind them, reflected in glass or phone screens, then the reflection disappears. Ghost hunters call it the companion effect, like something steps into the elevator with you. They just go along with the ride. The water tank apparition. Maintenance workers have spoken about strange sensations on the rooftop since Elisa Lam's death. Reported phenomena are seeing a figure near the tanks that vanishes, hearing rushing water when tanks are still, feeling like someone is following you. Some say they saw a woman-shaped shadow sitting on the tank lid. The suicide rooms. Certain floors had really high suicide rates, and residents said these rooms felt freezing cold even with the heat on, oppressively heavy, and it was as if someone was watching from the corners. A former tenant described waking every single night to the sensation of a hand on their ankle, like someone trying to pull them off the bed. Nightmares and shared dreams. Paranormal forums include posts from former long-term residents reporting nightmares of drowning, dreams of being shoved from windows, seeing a man with no eyes and sleep paralysis. Most chilling of all, multiple unrelated residents described the same man in the hat standing over their bed. The basement whispers. Urban legends say the basement, once used for storage and mechanical systems, has whispers with no source, sudden deep cold spots, and lights flickering on and off. Some explorers claim the smell of rotting flowers or decay rises suddenly and vanishes. The room with the stains. Former maintenance workers say one particular room, and the number is seldom disclosed to anyone, repeatedly developed dark stains on walls and carpet, a rancid odor no cleaning could eliminate. Guests report having nightmares and fleeing from the room before morning. Some staff refuse to enter it even today. That room should just be sealed off. You can't get rid of the stains and the odor. No one should be staying in there. Oh my gosh. Okay, and then we have the paranormal theory behind the Cecil Hotel. Many paranormal researchers describe the Cecil as a psychic sinkhole, an energy vortex where trauma accumulates instead of fading. There's the combination of high emotion deaths, violent history, mental illness, isolation, and dark figures in the building's past. All of these has led some to claim it functions as a spiritual trap or imprint zone. And with that being said, I'm going to go into the serial killer years, the Cecil's most terrifying guess. If ghosts feed on tragedy, then what happens when tragedy checks in under its own name? When real monsters walk the halls, breathing the same air as everyone else? The Cecil Hotel didn't just witness death, it hosted it. From the 1970s through the 1980s, the Cecil Hotel earned a reputation as a haven for predators hidden in plain sight. A place where invisibility was cheap and no one asked questions, as long as you paid for your room. Some came to disappear, others came to hunt. Two of the most infamous names in American criminal history spent time inside these walls, and the stories that echo behind them are as chilling as the killings themselves. And guess who? Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. I covered his story in episode 17. I didn't even realize he stayed at this hotel until I researched the hotel. So this was interesting to read about. Go check out that episode. So in the mid-1980s, Los Angeles lived in fear. Doors locked, windows nailed shut, women slept with lights on, children whispered prayers. Because the Night Stalker was out there, which is Richard Ramirez. So going a little bit into his history again, Richard Ramirez, a predator driven by violence, sexual sadism, and a fascination with satanic symbolism, and that left a trail of murder, torture, sexual assault, and fear across Southern California. And while police and citizens searched for him, he slept at the Cecil Hotel. Life inside the Cecil. Richard Ramirez reportedly rented a room on the upper floors, the perfect perch over Skid Row. Prostitutes, drug users, unhoused individuals, people who could vanish without headlines, without questions. Eyewitness rumors say he dumped bloody clothes in the hotel's dumpsters, entering the lobby bare-chested and splattered with gore, walking past oblivious staff and residents who assumed the stains were from street fights or drugs. No one looked twice, no one wanted to. You didn't ask questions at the Cecil. If you kept your head down, the darkness left you alone. And that was a quote from a former resident that's anonymous. A predator protected by chaos. Inside the Cecil, Ramirez was just another shadow among many. The building didn't hide him, it welcomed him, wrapped him in the comfort of its invisibility. And the walls, if walls could whisper, the Cecils would scream. The next serial killer, I might talk about him in the next episode, we'll see. But his name is Jack Unterweger, the copycat killer, and the year was about 1991. So relatively recent. If Ramirez was chaos and brutality, Jack was deception and manipulation. An Austrian journalist and convicted murderer who charmed his way into society, Jack checked into the Cecil Hotel while supposedly researching crime in Los Angeles. In reality, he was hunting for his next victim. He targeted sex workers around Skid Row, just steps from the hotel. He strangled victims with their own bras, a signature detail from his earlier murders in Europe. He then returned to the Cecil to sleep, write, and occasionally entertain police officers, interviewing him about, ironically, serial killers. The killer and the investigators sitting under the same roof, drinking the same damn coffee. The Cecil didn't just attract monsters, it gave them a cover. So why the Cecil Hotel? Because it was the perfect place. It was cheap, it had untraceable rooms, there was a lack of security, there was a constant turnover of vulnerable people, a neighborhood where a woman disappeared without headlines, a building already steeped in violence and tragedy, a psychic magnet for the darkest human souls. So it was the ideal hunting ground for them, a place where evil didn't need to hide, it could simply exist. Dark, reputation reinforced. Ramirez and Jack didn't create the Cecil's infamy, they confirmed it. By the early 1990s, the hotel wasn't just a location, it was an entity, a symbol of urban decay, death, and just full of predators. A place where killers found comfort and victims found silence. The girl in the water tank, the mystery of Elisa Lam. She was just a 21-year-old student on vacation, and somehow she became the face of one of the most disturbing mysteries of the 21st century. The disappearance. It's January 2013. A 21-year-old Canadian student named Elisa Lam checked into the Cecil Hotel for what was supposed to be a short stay in Los Angeles. She was bright, funny, and full of energy, a young woman exploring life, blogging about her adventures on Tumblr under the same username. I really don't know how to say the username. It's like Novella or something like that. Her posts were honest and human, a blend of excitement, vulnerability, and loneliness. She shared her struggles with bipolar disorder, her fascination with cities, and her hope to connect with people on her trip. On January 26, Elisa arrived in LA. By January 31st, she vanished. No one saw her leave, no one heard a thing. Her parents, worried after not hearing from her, contacted the LAPD, Los Angeles Police Department. Flyers went up across Los Angeles, but Elisa had seemingly evaporated into the Cecil's shadow. The elevator footage. The elevator footage was released publicly to the LAPD on February 13th, 2013. It showed Elisa in one of the Cecil's elevators, behaving in a way that stunned the world. She enters, presses several buttons, then steps to the side, peeking cautiously into the hallway, as if someone's there. She moves back in, hides in the corner, steps out again. She gestures with her hands, almost like she's talking to someone or something. Then suddenly, she's gone. The doors stay open so unnaturally long. Like, the video's 3 to 4 minutes? The elevator doors do not close. For nearly 4 minutes, viewers watch, trying to make sense of it. Online theories exploded. Everything from mental health episodes to paranormal interference. Some believed she was running from someone unseen. Others claimed the Cecil's dark energy was influencing her. And some thought she'd become lost between two worlds, alive but already fading. An online forum user in 2013 said, "The movements were strange, fluid, like she was underwater before she even died." The discovery. 2 weeks later, hotel guests began complaining that the water pressure was low, and that the water from the taps and showers had a strange taste. Maintenance worker Santiago Lopez climbed to the roof to check the water tanks. He noticed one of the heavy metal lids was slightly ajar, and when he looked inside, he saw something floating. The bloated, decomposing body of Elisa Lam. She was naked, her clothes and belongings drifting beside her. The tank was locked and difficult to access. Guests and staff weren't supposed to reach it. So how did she get in? The investigation. The discovery sent shockwaves through the city. The coroner's report later listed the cause of death as accidental drowning, with bipolar disorder noted as a contributing factor. No signs of foul play, no drugs in her system. But the details didn't add up. The roof was locked, alarmed, and required a key to get up there. The water tank lid was heavy, too heavy for her to lift easily from inside. No one saw her on security cameras heading to the roof, and yet there she was. Some investigators concluded she may have experienced a manic episode and climbed up through a fire escape, possibly thinking the tank was a place to hide. Others weren't convinced. A former LAPD officer once said, "It's not just strange, it's impossible. You can't just fall into a sealed water tank." And now I'm going to go more into the investigation and the autopsy report as well. When a story has too many holes, sometimes the truth is what's trapped between them. The official story. After Elisa's body was discovered, the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office conducted a full autopsy. The official cause of death, accidental drowning, with bipolar disorder listed as a significant condition, case closed, at least on paper. No drugs were found in her system, no alcohol, no evidence of physical trauma, no signs of sexual assault. Her clothes were in the water beside her, tangled and torn, but not shredded. And yet, when the autopsy report was released, readers and forensic experts quickly noticed inconsistencies and missing details that made the accident theory difficult to believe. The missing cell phone. One of the first red flags, Elisa's cell phone was never recovered. She had been using it constantly to post to Tumblr and contact her family. Even in the last hours of her life, friends reported messages from her, upbeat, normal, then silence. When her body was found, her clothes, watch, and hotel key were inside the tank, but no phone. It wasn't in her room, it wasn't on the roof, and it wasn't logged into police evidence. Some believe it was stolen, possibly containing crucial evidence of her final moments. Others whispered darker theories, that someone used it after her death, or deleted messages to erase their involvement. The roof access problem. The roof of the Cecil Hotel was not easy to access. To reach the water tanks, you need to exit onto a locked rooftop door, which would trigger an alarm at the front desk if opened. You would have to climb a metal staircase or ladder to reach the top platform where the 4 tanks sat. Then, scale the side of the tank, roughly 10 feet high, and open a heavy metal lid, roughly 20 pounds in weight. The water tank where Elisa was found had no fixed ladder, only an external one bolted to the side. And once inside the tank, there was no internal ladder or easy way out. So, if she somehow climbed in on her own, how did she lift the lid? And why was it closed afterward? Even maintenance worker Santiago Lopez, who discovered her, stated he had to climb up and open the hatch, suggesting it was sealed shut when he arrived. And he said, "I don't understand how she could have put the lid back on from the inside. It doesn't make any sense." The elevator footage alterations. Online investigators quickly noticed something off about the elevator video released by the LAPD. The timestamp at the bottom of the footage is blurred or missing. Certain portions of the video appear sped up or slowed down, as if frames were cut out. At one point, Elisa's hand and foot movement distort unnaturally. Some claim it looks like she's reacting to someone edited out of the frame. Theories began to swirl that someone, possibly hotel staff or investigators, edited the video to conceal evidence of another person's presence. The LAPD denied this, claiming technical issues with the surveillance system. But for many viewers, that explanation didn't wash. Autopsy inconsistencies. The autopsy report, released several months after Elisa's death, raised even more questions. The key concerns were the inconclusive time of death. The coroner couldn't determine exactly when she died. Her decomposition and water exposure made it impossible. Lack of full testing. Despite the high-profile nature of the case, certain tests, like a rape kit DNA analysis, were marked not conducted. Delayed toxicology. Her blood was tested for medication, and small traces of her bipolar prescriptions were found, but not all were present, leading to speculation that she had missed doses. However, that alone couldn't explain the behavior seen in the video. If you have bipolar, it's not going to make you act this way. It's very strange. And there's no clear signs of drowning either. The autopsy noted no significant water in her lungs, which some forensic experts found very unusual. It reads like a checklist of contradictions. Every answer leads to 2 new questions, and that was said by a forensic pathologist. Even more suspicious, parts of the report were later revised and reissued, and certain pages seemed redacted when shared with the public. Environmental conditions. Investigators were also puzzled by the state of her body. Elisa had been in the tank for nearly 19 days, yet decomposition was inconsistent. Her body was bloated, but not fully skeletonized. Her hair floated around her, still partially intact. Her watch and hotel key were found near her, undamaged. The lid being closed would have slowed decomposition by limiting oxygen exposure, suggesting someone may have sealed the tank after she entered. But who? The LAPD's response. Detectives eventually concluded there was no evidence of foul play. They attributed her behavior to a psychotic episode, claiming she may have stripped to remove restrictive clothing while in distress, then accidentally drowned. But the autopsy said there was not a lot of water in her lungs, so that doesn't make any sense. But her family never accepted that explanation, and I wouldn't either. They later filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the Cecil Hotel, claiming inadequate safety and security measures. The case was eventually dismissed, but the public suspicion only grew stronger. Because if Elisa had been in crisis, why wasn't hotel staff alerted sooner? Why wasn't the alarm triggered? And how could she have accessed a locked rooftop without anyone noticing? The aftermath. After her death, the Cecil Hotel drained, cleaned, and sealed the water tanks. Guests were horrified to learn they had been drinking, bathing, and brushing their teeth with that same contaminated water. I can't even imagine. The story went viral worldwide. A perfect storm of horror, mystery, and digital age obsession. Every frame of that elevator footage was dissected. Every theory explored, from mental illness to murder to the supernatural. To this day, no official answer satisfies all the evidence. It's as if the truth, like Elisa, remains submerged. And there's many theories and supernatural connection. I'm going to go over some of them. The Elisa Lam case became one of the most viral mysteries in internet history and drew parallels to the Cecil's cursed reputation and to older stories of victims drawn there by unseen forces. People began connecting coincidences. The elevator video's timestamp was altered, missing a full minute. The water tank itself mirrored the idea of containment, purification, and suffocation, echoing earlier hauntings involving drowning nightmares by the guests. Even eerier, a 2005 film titled Dark Water had nearly the same exact plot. A girl's body found in a rooftop water tank of an old apartment building. It's like exactly like that. Some theorize she was influenced by dark energy, perhaps the same that had drawn so many others to their end within those walls. Others believe she was being chased by something unseen, something the camera caught in fragments. The hotel's response. After the discovery, the hotel temporarily closed several doors and changed its name, rebranding as Stay on Main, like that would change the fact that it's very haunted. But no matter the name, the stigma remained. Guests who stayed afterward described feeling uneasy on the elevators, especially the one Elisa appeared in. Some claimed to have seen her reflection when they rode alone at night. Others reported hearing dripping water even when the taps were dry. Legacy. Elisa Lam's death remains one of the most haunting, unsolved cases in modern history. A collision of tragedy, mental health, urban decay, and perhaps something supernatural. She wasn't the first life claimed by the Cecil, and she likely won't be the last whispered about in its haunted halls. Maybe she was running from someone, maybe she was running from herself, or maybe she was running from the hotel. Unanswered questions in urban legend versus fact. The truth about the Cecil isn't just in what happened, it's in what keeps happening. Questions that refuse to die. Even after years of documentaries, investigations, and endless online theories, the case of Elisa Lam and the haunted legacy of the Cecil still leave behind glaring questions, each more unsettling than the last. How did Elisa access the rooftop? The only legal way up required a key from hotel staff, and any forced entry would have triggered the alarms. Yet none were reported. Why wasn't she found sooner? Guests had complained for days about foul-tasting, discolored water, but maintenance didn't inspect the tanks until nearly 3 weeks later. Where is her cell phone? In a digital age, that missing device feels like a screaming void, a piece of her story deliberately erased. And perhaps the most chilling question of all, was she alone on that rooftop? The video suggests otherwise. Her hand gestures, frantic hiding, the way she peeks out of the elevator as if someone unseen is following. Some say it was paranoia from a manic episode. Others say she was reacting to someone or something just beyond the camera's reach. Urban legends take root. The mystery spread online like wildfire, evolving into modern folklore. For every fact, there's a dozen interpretations, and somewhere in between, an urban legend was born. There's the elevator game theory. This one's very interesting. I actually kind of believe this one. It's at the top of my list. So popular claim says Elisa was playing a Korean ritual game meant to access another dimension. The rules involve pressing a sequence of elevator buttons, eerily similar to what she does in the footage, and if performed correctly, the doors open to another realm. In this world, time moves differently, shadows stretch wrong, and you might not make it back. Skeptics dismiss it as pure coincidence, but believers see the footage as proof that Elisa succeeded and never returned. And probably her body was just left behind. The Cecil Curse. Long before Elisa's death, the Cecil Hotel already had a decades-long reputation for darkness. From suicides in the 1930s to serial killers Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, and Jack staying there in the 80s and 90s, the hotel seemed magnetically drawn to tragedy. Locals began to claim it the most cursed hotel in Los Angeles. Some even believe the building sits on a negative spiritual vortex, amplifying death, addiction, and despair, feeding on the pain of its residents. They claim Elisa was simply the hotel's next victim, a sacrifice to whatever energy lives in those walls. A local historian, anonymous, said, "It's like the hotel has a heartbeat, and it only beats when something dies." The tuberculosis connection. One of the strangest coincidences to emerge after Elisa's death was a tuberculosis outbreak among the Skid Row population, just blocks from the Cecil, mere days after her body was discovered. The kicker of it all? The TB tests used to track the outbreak was called the LAM-ELISA, Lam Elisa test, a chilling mirror of her name. Scientists dismiss it as pure coincidence, but to those who follow coincidences, it feels like the universe whispering that the story isn't over. So, I'm going to go into fact versus fiction, what we do know. Well, I will separate the myths from the verifiable truths. So, the urban legend, Elisa was possessed or killed by a ghost haunting the Cecil. Fact, no evidence supports this, but numerous deaths and tragedies give the hotel its haunted reputation. Urban legend, she played the elevator game. Fact, no proof exists that she knew of or attempted this ritual, but her behavior matches its sequence eerily. Urban legend, the elevator video was edited to hide someone. Fact, LAPD denies tampering, though missing timestamps and jump cuts keep the theory alive. Urban legend, the Cecil sits on cursed land. Fact, the site was once a part of early Los Angeles development. No known native burial grounds or occult history. Urban legend, her death was murder covered up by the hotel. Fact, no suspects, witnesses, or DNA found, but security failings make the official story hard to trust. So while the legends spiral into the surreal, what's most disturbing is how little the official version explains. It's the void, not the violence, that haunts people most. The Cecil today. The building has been rebranded, renamed, and apparently cleansed in countless ways, but employees still whisper about cold spots, flickering lights and phantom footsteps in the hallways above the 7th floor. Guests who stay there speak of waking up to water dripping, even though the pipes were replaced years ago. Others say they've seen a dark-haired woman reflected in mirrors, staring back with lifeless eyes before fading into static. Some say it's Elisa Lam. Others say it's just another victim of the hotel's endless hunger. A legacy of unanswered questions. No matter how many facts are verified or rumors dispelled, the Cecil Hotel remains unsolved in spirit. The elevator video has become one of the most analyzed clips in internet history, inspiring films, documentaries, even horror games. But maybe the truth isn't meant to be found. Maybe, like the hotel itself, the mystery is meant to stay alive, feeding on curiosity, fear, and obsession. Some mysteries never die. They just check in and never leave. Some stories don't end when the last page turns. Some just echo down the halls, through the pipes, behind closed doors. The Cecil Hotel still stands on Main Street in downtown LA, a towering monument to despair, gentrified and renamed, but never truly reborn. The new owners call it the Stay on Main, as if a new name could wash away the blood in the carpet or the whispers in the walls. But no matter what they call it, you can't cleanse a place that was never clean to begin with. This hotel has seen nearly a century of tragedy, from suicides that ended on the pavement to serial killers who called its rooms home. And at its heart sits the story of Elisa Lam, the bright young woman who checked in for a few nights and never checked out. Her death remains officially labeled as accidental drowning, but the world knows better. The Cecil doesn't do accidents. It does patterns. It does cycles. It takes and it never gives back. Maybe she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Maybe she stumbled into something she couldn't escape. Or maybe, just maybe, the Cecil itself chose her. Because that's the thing about certain places in this world. They hold on to energy. They remember pain. They echo tragedy like a song that can't stop playing. And when the night is quiet and the streets of LA go still, some say you can still hear the faint hum of the hotel's elevator moving on its own, stopping on random floors, doors opening to empty hallways, as if someone unseen is still pressing the buttons. Maybe she's still trying to leave. Maybe she's warning the rest of us not to stay too long. Sorry, that was my dog. Cecil doesn't just take lives, it keeps souls. So, as we head into Thanksgiving next week, maybe that's the reminder we all need. To be grateful, truly grateful, for warmth, safety, and light. Because there are places in this world where the warmth never reaches, where lost souls wander in search of what they once had, a home, a voice, a heartbeat. So when you sit down to your meal this season, give thanks not just for what you have, but for the unseen, for the mysteries that didn't find you, and the darkness that passed you by. This is The Night Crew, and until next time, keep your lights low, your hearts open, and your gratitude deep. Because sometimes the most terrifying thing is realizing how lucky you are to still be here. And like always, comment if you want a particular story or person that I can go over and research. And you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Night Crew. But regardless of that, stay safe, happy Thanksgiving, and have a good night.